I was bleeding guilt into the sink when the second pink line appeared. My breath caught in my throat like a lie too sharp to swallow. The test slipped from my hand, clattered to the floor, and I just stood there, staring. That cheap plastic stick had more power over my life than my wedding vows ever did. I told him it was one kiss. Just one stupid, drunken kiss. We had fought. He left. I cried. And then he showed up. He wasn't supposed to be there. I wasn't supposed to answer the door. But I did. And now here I am, counting weeks on my fingers, replaying that one mistake over and over while my husband texts me baby name ideas like everything's perfect. "Do you think it's a girl?" he asked me this morning, his hand resting gently on my stomach like the baby growing inside me belongs only to him. I smiled. I said yes. I lied. Because I don't know if this baby belongs to the man I married, or the man I never should have touched. I promised it was nothing. But now I have 9 months of consequences, and a lifetime of secrets curling in my womb. Before I tell you what happened next, make sure you're alone. The lie rolled off my tongue smoother than I expected. It was just one kiss. I said it without blinking, without shaking, like I'd rehearsed it in the mirror. Maybe I had. Maybe I'd whispered it to myself enough times that it started to sound like the truth. My husband, Aaron, stood across from me in our kitchen, holding a chipped coffee mug in both hands like it could anchor him to the moment. He didn't yell. He didn't throw anything. That would have made it easier, I think. Instead, he just nodded slowly, jaw clenched, and said, "Okay." Just, okay. I should have known then that the silence meant war. Aaron was never the type to explode. He was the type to hold a grudge so tightly it crushed both of us. But I was desperate. We've been distant for months, barely touching, barely speaking without biting. I felt invisible. And then Micah showed up. The one I swore I'd never even look at that way again. He was my ex, my what if, the chapter 1 never properly closed. When I told him Aaron and I were fighting, he smiled like he'd been waiting years to hear those words. I should have slammed the door. Instead, I let him in. I told myself it was just to talk. But then he touched my face. And I didn't stop him. I remember every second of that night like it's burned into my skin. The way Micah looked at me like I was still worth something. The way his lips felt like a secret I'd been dying to tell. I told myself I was lonely. I told myself it didn't count because Aaron and I were basically broken anyway. But that was all bullshit. Because I knew what I was doing. And I did it anyway. When I confessed to Aaron, I left out the most important part. I told him it was just a kiss. I didn't mention the clothes on the floor. The way I cried after. The way Micah held me like I was his. I thought if I controlled the narrative, I could control the damage. But lies are like cracks in a dam. They always find a way to leak. The next few weeks were a blur of pretending. I cooked breakfast. I smiled at baby shower invites. I watched Aaron fix the leaky faucet in the bathroom like nothing had changed. He never brought it up again. Not once. And that scared me more than any screaming match ever could. Because I knew he was watching. Waiting. Measuring every word I said, every move I made. Then the nausea started. At first, I blamed stress. My body felt heavy with shame and fear. But when I missed my period, the fear turned electric. I bought the test in secret. Took it while Aaron was at the gym. And when that second line appeared, everything collapsed. I called my best friend, Talia, in a panic. She answered on the first ring. "Breathe," she said, before I could even speak. "Start at the beginning." "I'm pregnant," I whispered. She paused. "Okay, and?" "And I don't know who the father is." That silence was different. It was sharp. Heavy. Talia had always been my ride or die, but this was a different level. "You need to tell him," she said. I laughed. It came out broken. "Tell him what?" That I lied about it being just a kiss? That his maybe baby might not be his? She didn't answer right away. When she did, her voice was soft. "You can't keep this up, Liv. The truth's going to come out one way or another." But I wasn't ready. I needed more time. Time to convince myself that maybe, just maybe, the baby was Aaron's. That maybe karma would take pity on me and spare me from watching my whole life collapse. So I scheduled a prenatal appointment. Alone. I told Aaron I was just getting a checkup. He kissed my forehead and said, "I'll come with you next time." And I smiled again. Lied again. Dug myself even deeper. Micah texted me the night after my appointment. Just 3 words, "Is it mine?" I stared at the screen so long my eyes blurred. I hadn't told him I was pregnant. I hadn't told anyone except Talia. Somehow, he just knew. Or maybe he guessed. Maybe he felt it the way I felt everything about him, in my chest, in my stomach, in the places that still remembered him. I typed a reply a dozen times and deleted each one. What was I supposed to say? Maybe? I hope not. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. Instead, I did the worst thing possible. I answered. "I don't know." He didn't reply right away. When he finally did, it was simple. "Then we need to talk." I met him at the park. Stupid, I know. Too risky. But it was the only place I felt like I could breathe. The second I saw him, every lie I told Aaron started screaming inside me. Micah looked the same, tall, broad-shouldered, that same stupid lopsided grin that made me feel 17 again. I hated that I still noticed. I hated that I still felt. "You look tired," he said, gently. "Don't," I whispered. "Don't act like you care." He looked down at his hands. "I do care, Liv. You think I planned this? You think I wanted to make your life harder? Then why did you come back?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Why did you kiss me? Why didn't you stop me?" His jaw tensed. "Because I've been in love with you since college. Because I never stopped. Because when you opened that door, I saw everything I used to dream about standing right in front of me. I turned away, because the truth of it scared me more than the lie ever could. This isn't a fairy tale, Micah." "No," he said. "It's not. It's real. And you're having a baby. Maybe my baby." Those words made my knees weak. I sat on the bench like if I didn't, I'd collapse. Aaron thinks it's his. Micah sat beside me, close but not touching. And if it is? Then I stay married, I said flatly. I forget this ever happened. He was quiet. Too quiet. Then he asked the question that had haunted me for weeks, and what if it's mine? I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because if I said what I really felt, if I admitted that a part of me wanted it to be Micah's, I would never forgive myself. And I already had enough guilt to drown in. Aaron started noticing things after that. The way I flinched when he touched me. The way I stared out the window too long. The way I smiled like someone had stitched it onto my face. One night, after dinner, he leaned against the kitchen counter and asked, "Are you happy, Liv?" I almost dropped the plate I was washing. "What? Are you happy?" he repeated. "With me. With us. With all of this." My throat burned. "Of course." He nodded slowly. "Because it doesn't feel like you are." I wanted to scream that I didn't know how to be happy anymore. That I was lost. That I had made a choice I couldn't unmake and now I was stuck in a story with no good ending. But instead I dried my hands, kissed his cheek, and told him I was just tired. I thought I could hold everything together. I thought if I just smiled enough, cooked enough, pretended hard enough, the truth would stay buried. But truth is like a heartbeat, it doesn't stop just because you try to ignore it. A week later, the doctor called. I missed the call and listened to the voicemail in the car, parked outside the grocery store. "Hi Olivia, this is Dr. Keller. Your genetic screening results came in. Based on the markers we found and the blood sample from the potential father you submitted." My heart stopped. I never submitted Aaron's blood. I only submitted Micah's. It appears the paternal DNA is a strong match. If you have any questions, please call us back. I dropped my phone in my lap and stared straight ahead. Cars moved around me. A woman pushed a stroller past. Somewhere, someone was laughing. And all I could hear was that one word echoing in my skull, match. I didn't go home right away. I drove past our neighborhood 3 times, circling like a coward in a loop of dread. The whole way, I kept whispering the same sentence over and over like a chant, "Don't panic. You can fix this. Don't panic. You can fix this." But how do you fix a life that's built on lies? On half-truths and withheld confessions and kisses that turned into chaos? When I finally pulled into our driveway, Aaron was on the porch, sipping tea like he'd been waiting for me. His eyes met mine and something in my chest cracked. I could already feel the lie growing heavier inside me with every step I took toward the door. I knew the baby wasn't his. I knew. And yet, I walked into that house and told him about the test results like they didn't mean anything. I said they came back normal. I smiled through it. He believed me. He believed me because he wanted to. And that made me hate myself even more. Later that night, while he slept peacefully beside me, his hand curled protectively over my stomach, I stared at the ceiling and imagined the explosion when the truth finally came out. Would it be the day the baby was born? Would he look into its face and know? Or would it come sooner, some offhand comment, a slip of a tongue, a message on my phone I forgot to delete? Every second started to feel like borrowed time. And every borrowed moment carried interest I couldn't afford to pay. Micah, on the other hand, didn't stay silent. He wanted updates. He wanted involvement. He wanted me. "I want to be there," he said, over the phone. "For the appointments. For everything. I know you're scared, Liv. But we made this together." I laughed bitterly. "No, Micah. I made this. I made this mess. You just showed up in it." "You didn't make it alone," he said, voice low and steady. "You don't have to carry this alone either." But I did. Because even if Micah was the biological father, Aaron was the man I chose. The man I married. The man who would raise this child unless the truth set fire to everything. Talia told me I needed to come clean. Again. "You think you're protecting Aaron," she said, "but you're not. You're just postponing his heartbreak. And growing yours." I snapped at her. I said she didn't understand. That I had everything under control. That this baby could grow up loved and safe and normal if we all just played our roles. But I was lying to myself as much as I was lying to everyone else. The breaking point came 2 weeks later at a baby store, of all places. Aaron and I were building a registry, cribs, pacifiers, tiny onesies with ducks on them. I caught him holding up a little navy blue hat, smiling like it was the most precious thing he'd ever seen. "He's going to look just like you," he said. The words shattered something inside me. "Why do you say he?" I asked quietly. He shrugged. "I just have a feeling. Strong jaw. Hazel eyes. That smirk you hate but secretly love." I forced a laugh. But inside, I was unraveling. Because Micah had hazel eyes. Micah had that smirk. Micah had a strong jaw. And suddenly I wasn't in a store anymore, I was in a nightmare, watching 2 lives I loved get crushed by the truth I refused to tell. That night, I stood in the bathroom again, just like I had the day I found out. Only this time, I was holding a photo. A sonogram. I stared at the grainy shape on the paper, wondering which man's blood pumped through those tiny limbs. I looked at myself in the mirror and asked the hardest question of all. What kind of mother starts her baby's life with a lie? And the answer was staring right back at me. I told Aaron the truth on a Tuesday. Not because I suddenly grew a conscience, or because Micah pressured me, or even because I finally found the courage. No, I told him because the guilt was physically killing me. I was throwing up more from shame than from morning sickness. I couldn't sleep. Couldn't look him in the eyes. I would flinch every time he touched me, and he started to notice. The man I married, the man I betrayed, looked at me with concern every time I flinched, thinking he had done something wrong. So I did it. We were sitting on the couch. The TV was playing some show we weren't even watching. My hands were shaking. He was rubbing circles on my knee, saying something about paint colors for the nursery. And I interrupted him with 4 words that cracked our world apart. "The baby isn't yours." He blinked, like maybe he heard me wrong. "What?" he said. I couldn't look at him. "It's not yours." "I'm so sorry." I lied. It wasn't just a kiss. That night, with Micah, it went further. And I didn't know at first. But the DNA test, it's his. The silence that followed wasn't quiet. It roared. He stood up, slowly, like moving too fast might trigger something worse. His face went pale. Then red. Then pale again. He paced once, twice, and then stopped in front of me. "You lied," he said. "Yes." 4 months? "Yes." He nodded over and over, like if he kept moving his head it would help him believe what he was hearing. "I held you. I planned a future with you. I talked to your belly like it was mine. I built a damn life around this." "I know," I whispered. "I know. And I'm sorry." He laughed, but it was hollow. "You're sorry? You destroyed me, Olivia. You broke me open and watched me bleed. And all this time, you were going to let me raise another man's kid and pretend like nothing happened?" "I was scared," I whispered. "Yeah," he snapped. "Well, I hope it was worth it." Then he left. He didn't slam the door. He didn't scream. He just walked out. And I haven't seen him since. Micah came over that night. I didn't call him, Talia did. She was the only one still speaking to me. He showed up with groceries and a dozen questions in his eyes. But when he saw my face, he dropped everything and just held me. "I didn't want this," I sobbed. "I know," he said. "But we have it now. And I'm not going anywhere." The next few weeks were quiet chaos. I moved in with Talia temporarily. I missed Aaron like a phantom limb, aching even when I tried to forget. He didn't answer my texts. Didn't respond to the letter I wrote. Didn't show up to the ultrasound I invited him to. And I didn't blame him. Micah tried to fill the gap. He held my hand during appointments. Talked about baby names. Painted a small nursery at his place, even though I wasn't ready to move in. But something between us was broken too. Because the truth is, I didn't just lose Aaron. I lost the version of myself I could live with. I was a liar. A cheater. A woman who destroyed a good man for one night of feeling seen. And now I had a baby growing inside me, tied to that betrayal forever. The baby came early. 2 weeks before the due date. A boy. Strong lungs. Hazel eyes. Micah cried when he held him. I didn't. I just stared, wondering what kind of mother I'd be. What kind of woman I'd have to become to raise a child in the wreckage of so much pain. Aaron never came to the hospital. I sent a picture. He never replied. And that's how it ended. Not with closure. Not with forgiveness. Just 1,000 loose ends and a baby who didn't ask for any of this. And every time I look at my son, I swear I love him. But I also remember. The kiss. The lie. The second pink line. And the man who should have been his father, if I'd just kept the door shut.